All right, welcome to the Parental Room. My name is Leo. I am your host, and today we have a special guest today. She is the well-renowned psychiatrist, Dr. Shari.
Hi, thank you.
How you doing?
Good.
Great. So we'll get right into it. So I do understand you're a psychiatrist. Can you break down what type of psychiatrist you are?
So I have board certification in general psychiatry. I didn't do the fellowship to do child, but in general psychiatry, we are able to get some background information, and we do a lot of child rotations. It's an interest of mine, absolutely, and so I'm able to sort of see both spectrums if I would like to.
Gotcha. Okay. And how long did you have to go to school for that?
Forever. So I did 4 years of undergrad, I did 4 years of medical school, and then 4 years of psychiatry residency. And then after that, if you'd like to continue, you can do fellowships in a lot of different options, child forensic. You can also do psychoanalytical, and I just decided just to stay with general.
Okay. And how did you, so that was about what? That was like 13, 15 years of school. Jeez. Okay, so how did you get into it? Did your upbringing bring you?
I would say that's definitely a part of it. So as a child, I'm from a really diverse background. I have a lot of different ethnicities in my background, and I just realized that all of us sort of interpreted the way we found our health differently. My grandmother has a really thick Trinidadian accent. So a lot of times when we would go to the doctor with her, we would have to actually spend more time to talk with the other professionals. So I know that there's a reason for us to have people that look like us, that take care of us, to be in medicine. I was a neuroscience major in college. I went to Smith College in Massachusetts. And that sort of opened me up to thinking about, should I be a brain surgeon? Should I look at the way our brains are different? Are we genetically different in our different ethnicities? Is it a brain function thing? Is it how we're raised? Is it how we grow up? So that sort of put me in the realm of that. And then when I got to residency, I honestly thought I was going to be an OB and do all the baby deliveries. And then I passed out on my first C-section, and I was like, okay, that is gross, and I'm okay with that.
Passed out.
Yeah, I waited until we're doing the rest of the surgery and we're closing and the baby's here and everyone is fine. And I just stepped back and I slid down the wall and I was like, I'm going to sit here. And they were like, are you okay? We have 2 patients now. And I was just like, there's a lot of stuff that you think before you try it. And that's what's great about medical school. You get to try a month in each different specialty. So in that concept, it was we need to have help for Black women. I'm a Black woman. This is going to be awesome. I'm really good at surgery. And then when I got there, it was this is a lot of germs and touching and things. And I'm okay.
Yeah, so, I can imagine, because when my sons were born, they were born by C-section, and it was traumatic for me. He got pulled out by his butt first, and I never wanted to see it again.
And it was a lot of muscle work to do traction and stuff, and I was I don't know if I'm big enough for this. So I knew that what I'm good at is talking. I talk a lot. I ask people personal questions. People feel like talking with me, and so that was something that not everyone was comfortable with, and everyone wasn't comfortable talking with people that were maybe incarcerated, people that didn't look like them, homeless people, whatever. I have no problem with all of those things, because at the end of the day, there's some commonality that we all share. We all want to eat. We all want to be safe. We want to be healthy, all of those things. And so it takes a certain kind of person to do that. So it was something that I excelled at. So I said psychiatry is where I'm going to go. I did a bunch of rotations and just basically built up how I was feeling about it. And then and ultimately decided and did that for my residency training.
Gotcha. Okay. So my other question would be, so what does child abuse, how does child abuse affect children in your eyes?
So if you look at data about how children form their personalities, how they form their sense of self, their purpose, all that stuff is usually before 5. So that's why the sort of things that we say to them, the images and how they feel, child abuse can be a neglectful parent. Child abuse can be a person who's physically abusive to them. Child abuse can be just not having clean water, food, and those kinds of things. When you have an unstable sort of person or an unstable environment, you then have increased fear and increased worries about abandonment, all of those things, so that your personality is always sometimes maybe it's dependent, where you are always trying to please because you don't want them to leave because you've known that what loss looks like. And so you will try to people please people that sometimes they become people pleasers older. And that's a core part of their personality. Sometimes it's very unstable, hot and cold, so they're not sure how to interpret people. So they may be really cut off and aloof because, well, I don't know how people react. Sometimes I do the same thing and they're really mad. Sometimes I do the right thing and they're not even happy with me. Sometimes they praise me, so they may be unstable that way. So a lot of our personality disorders that we talk about in psychiatry come from some ego wound that happened as a young child. And it doesn't have to be before 5. It can be along the way. Maybe there's a death of a parent. Maybe there's something else that's happened. So now as a kid, you're more focused on what loss looks like, and it's different for you. So that's how sort of child abuse and those kinds of things can impact a kid and how they think about themselves. And it's also every one of us was a child at some point. So there's all of us have childhood stuff that at some point, that's why we are paranoid. That's why we're a little bit apprehensive to meet new people. And everyone just sort of thinks it's part of their personality. Like, oh, that's just how I am. And it's something else that's happened that sort of allowed you to think that that's protective and that's how you need to carry yourself. And not everything is bad. It's just how we end up.
How we consume it.
Exactly.
Right. No, that's great. And speaking of that too, would you say that there are other forms that may not be as obvious child abuse that maybe parents may not even know that affect them?
Sure. I think in our culture, like just as a minority, and I identify as Black female, like as a lot of us will have parents that will be like, try to teach us with the negative, like instead of praising us, like, oh, you did so great on this one part, they'll maybe will lead and say like, well, this wasn't very good, right? And sometimes when you lead with that and you have a sensitive kid, they internalize that message. And so their automatic running track in their head is negative thoughts sometimes. Or they're trying to always please one parent. I've seen a lot of parents that have different relationships. The kid is like super oppositional with the mom, but loves the dad. So what's the difference between those dynamics there? Because there's some way that their message is being given to that kid that's different for each of the parents. So you have some attachments that are different by the way that we do stuff. I know when I go home, my mom will always tell me, oh, you look like you've gained weight. Okay, super. If I was a kid with an eating disorder or I had other things that were chaotic in my life and maybe only thing I could control was what I ate, that may be a negative thought for me. We've all had family members that do that. We're all like, oh, here we go. It's Thanksgiving again, right? But sometimes those messages, if you don't pick up how the child is receiving them, if there's not enough positive praise on top of that, if they don't feel good about their bodies and you sort of push those buttons that are bad, that can be an issue for them. So it's just sort of the way we speak, the dialogue. Positive affirmations are amazing. The fact that that's come to like be very huge and popular now is great, I think, because it's changing the way that we speak about it and when we use negative words. Some of the messages that we have about healthcare, spirituality, that kind of stuff, kids listen. They pick up everything that we say. So if you are super anti on something, they're going to remember that and they're going to see things differently. People that had negative experiences in school. Oh, I hated school. Chemistry was terrible. It was so hard. You know, girls aren't very good at math. If you were a kid that did math, you may internalize that and not even know from the parent that they said that because they were just sharing their experience. But you need to be sort of an empowering state of mind to allow them to have that sort of reach so they can really make their potential based on that.
Yeah, I agree because I know growing up in a Caribbean household, like they don't hold their tongue, you know. They will say whatever is the first thing on their mind. You know, you eating too much or you're not eating enough, you're too skinny, you're too fat. So yeah, no, I trust me, I definitely understand.
Or even thinking about like kids that are like what we call paternalized, kids that have to take care of their other siblings. So when they go to school and they're like not done with their homework, they're thinking about, I had to take care of my brother last night. I had to make dinner. I had to clean up. So they're almost like little adults. And so they're reactive in a different way because they're stressed like a kid, because they're like a parent, because they're doing other tasks. And some of us need to, and we have to, and that's fine. But to also just sort of give them a range and let their teachers know, hey, this is what we do as our night routine. This is the kind of stuff they're doing. So if her homework isn't done, maybe something happened. Instead of just saying like, oh my God, your homework isn't done, right? Ask what's going on at home. That gives other people range to see what's going on. Or the way that we talk about bills, right? I was always super cognizant that we didn't have stuff, right? So I didn't ask for things that we needed. Maybe I needed pencils at school and asked for it because I was worried we're poor. Like I can't do that. So you also give extra stresses to those kids sometimes when we have those conversations in front of our kids too. It's great that they understand the value of things and we can impart that in different ways, but I never want those children to also feel like they can't ask for what they do need, even though they're aware of their circumstances.
Right. No, that makes sense. I agree. And so, speaking, you touched briefly on how one kid could favor one parent more than the other, right? So, how does a split household where co-parenting relationship, how does that affect the child mentally?
I think so. Obviously, there's healthy kids that can come from those environments for sure. Single parent households have healthy kids. Alternate lifestyle people have healthy kids as well. We see that all the time. But what you need to do is have some consistency and commonality between the two. If these are rules here, they have to be rules there too. I think that's the best because what's basically happening is we're uprooting the child and we're saying, okay, what you thought was standard and was normal is your everyday routine. We're changing it. Okay, so that has to have some input from them too, to allow them to say, is this okay? Are there places that you would rather be on the weekend? Is there a reason for that? And just letting them be a part of the situation, I think, helps to ameliorate that. But there has to be some consistency, because it basically feels like turmoil. Now we have whole different places that we live. We have whole different places. Do I still have a room at both places? What's going on? How often do I see them? How can I rely on them if I don't know the schedule? Sometimes we lose that in our translation because we're trying to do our own thing to make sure that they work between the two parents, but it's also a collaborative opportunity too. So I think sometimes there can be resentment if I feel like the one parent is responsible for breaking it up, or I feel like I'm responsible for breaking it up. There's a lot of different interpretations that happen there. So I think the best thing, like we were talking about, is just to have open communication of what's going on and allow them to ask their difficult questions without it being a judgmental zone, and just say like, well, what have you heard? What's your interpretation of what's going on? Or also they have input from their friends. Their friends may say, oh yeah, my mom and dad are divorced, and this is what happens, and this is what's going to happen. So they may have a preconceived notion that you have no idea about, because they haven't communicated that to you based on what someone else has said to them too. So they may be apprehensive or act out in other places because they don't want to be at another place, or it's not comfortable for them, and it may be misinterpreted as well.
Gotcha. What advice would you give to those who aren't parents and want to become parents?
So people that aren't parents and want to become parents, which includes myself, right? I think that the best thing is to sort of have an understanding of different expectations and benchmarks. If we look at like how people say, read the baby books, read the child development books, read those child neuro books, because if I think that my kid at 2 is supposed to be able to follow a command, and he doesn't, he ignores me, and I'm upset with him, that's based because I don't understand what the expectations for that age limit are. At 3, if he can do 2 tasks at a time and he could understand those 2 sentences that I said, if I have an unrealistic expectation because it's been so long since I've been 4, right, then that will be a source of contention sometimes in raising. If I know that my kid's supposed to be able to sit up on his own and be fine at 7 months, and I don't know that benchmark, sometimes in our cultures and our populations, autism gets missed because we don't have other kids to compare to, and we have a single parent household, and there's not a bunch of us that are there. So having that upfront relationship with the knowledge that we need as those kids are fundamentally growing up, what the milestones are, I think that helps as a new parent and as a future parent. Also making sure that your mental health is good, making sure that your diet is good, staying away from alcohol and drugs, because that's where the baby is living in the womb. That crosses into your blood. So babies are all fat when they're born, right? So things that go into the fat are other drugs that go there, and there are alcohol that goes there. That's why it affects your brain, because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and stays in your brain. So if you can abstain from those kinds of things, or you can at least minimize them, or have a good coping skill that doesn't require that, that makes you the healthiest, happiest parent before you get there. So that when life stressors, which you obviously know having kids are, they stress you constantly in new ways you didn't know. You were like, I didn't even know that was going to annoy me, and now it does. Like that allows you to have more of a range of what you can do when those things happen. And I just think, like, even when you buy a puppy, right, we all buy the breed standard book. Okay, how do they act, right? Same thing for kids. We need to know, like, sort of a benchmark of where they are and what to expect. I think that helps. Being the best parent is always going to be difficult. It's going to look different from every one of us. We're all going to have different parameters. So you need to at least also build up your support team. Who's the friend that you can call that's going to be able to watch? Who do you trust? Who has parenting styles like you? Talk with your partner about parenting styles. Are you guys a family that spanks your kids? Are you guys a family that puts time out? Are you guys a family that want private schools? Not? What kind of things is that going to look like?
No, that definitely makes sense, because even to this day, we still don't know what schools that, me and the boy's mom, what school they want to be in. I believe in spanking. I'm not sure she fully believes in it, but we kind of do agree on that similarly. So I do think that you have to kind of be in communication. You have to be together and be on the same accord in order for it to be, for the kids to grow up successful.
And that helps with the consistency too. So they know that, okay, if I do this at dad's house, I'm cool. If I do it at mom's house, I'm not. That becomes the source over there, and they start to be a little bit manipulative because they know what they can get away with too.
Right. Okay. So how were your parents in your eyes while you were growing up?
So my mom is the Trinidadian one, right? My dad is half black, half white. And so my mom was very much like, your school has to be done, and that's all I really care about. And then I would be like, oh, Mom, I got a B+. And so I'm like super happy. She's like, yeah, but Sarah's mom said she got an A. And I'd be like, super, this is terrible. So I always had a lot of like, anxiety or thoughts about how to be excellent, right? And that was always excelling in school. So the good thing is I got through school and I did really well.
Right.
Neither of my parents went to college. I'm the first one to go to college. So that instilled in me pride in my schoolwork. But I think there was also a lot of times where I felt sort of like the imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not good at these things, because I had that sort of voice sometimes that maybe I'm not doing as well as I could be. And sort of that comparative thought that we have, like, well, how are you doing in the class? How are things going? So that made it very important for me to sort of find mentors that would sort of off-put those sorts of things that were thought processes for me. So I had really good mentorship. I went to schools an all-women's college where I was able to sort of find people that were like me and have really strong people around me. But my mom is also super strong because she's a Trinidadian woman and very opinionated. So I'm also very well-spoken and I also like to advocate for people because I've seen that. So all of those things become sort of the end result, and you can see which parts you took from them. My dad is very diplomatic and very quiet when he needs to be, and much more measured, but he also owns his own business, so he has a lot of stress where he has to delegate tasks. So I think I learned that part from him. But it was definitely tumultuous because phenotypically, I look like a Black woman. My mom looks Indian, and my dad, depending on if he's cut his hair or he hasn't, I think sort of walks the line between the two. So sometimes I felt like I'm the only Black kid in this family. Like, you don't understand what's going on. And my mom couldn't share that with me sometimes. So there was definitely a time where I was much closer with my dad because he understood what it looked like to be in a racist sort of climate in America. And my mom didn't really at sometimes. So there was definitely some differences there based just on the background. So that's another important part that we're talking about, like as parents are, to get on the same page of how do we raise our kids.
Gotcha. In closing, do you have any advice or, anything that you would want anyone who may watch this to know that may be a parent or want to become a parent or has thoughts about parenthood?
I would say that there's always a plethora of information. There's always help groups if you're struggling. There's always points. Therapy doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. So if you're considering a split and there need to be a family therapist, sometimes that's the best way to sort of talk through those things, that you may not have a way to lead the conversation yourself. I would also say that being in close conversation with our teachers, they spend a ton of time with our kids. We need to know what they're teaching, how they're carrying themselves, where our institutions are, what kind of other kids are there. Just being overly involved. And that means that sometimes we need to call in our aunts and aunties to help us. Like, you need to do that so that we can be present for our kids. And I would just say that at the end of the day, like, it's an opportunity to grow a new human that has the ability to be a really great, impactful person in the world. And you just sort of think about what sort of lessons would I want for myself that I missed out on, and what do I want to impart with our kids, and just keep that as a focus.
Gotcha. And there you have it. So it takes a village. As she said, it takes a village, and, do your part. Don't feel like you're being too invasive. Don't let them grow up alone. Be a part of their lives as best as possible.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for coming on the Parental Room.
Thank you.